Heavenly Father, we come together in this church meeting today to discuss our future, Lord. And we here at Lakeville know that you have your hand in everything that we do, not only for our church and its people, for our community as well, Lord. And we pray that you'll open our minds and our hearts today to what we're looking at in the future, Lord, and guide us in our decisions and help us to move in one direction as your holy people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. It is written in the book of Jeremiah, God says to his people, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you." Today's meeting is one that we all knew was coming for quite a long time now. We've been building up to this for, probably since I got here. And that's, what does our church at Lakeville do for its future? So I'll give you a little bit of back history in case you need any reminding. Next August to September, I think it's August 25th or 26th to like September 5th or something like that, is the Methodist Church General Conference, which is held every 4 years. Okay? So they had to delay it back last year because of the COVID, but they're having it hit next year. So in 1 year's time, the church is going to be broken up. The UMC as we know it is no longer going to exist. It's separating into three fractions. One is the Global Methodist Church, which I looked up online, and it follows the same organization structure as the United Methodist Church, but it's very loosely put together right now. And I would expect it to be loosely put together right now because they can't really put the final stamp on everything until they vote to dissolve the United Methodist Church next year. Okay? What was the second one, Pam? The Liberation. I know I was going to ask you too. I can't remember. We thought, I was thinking, when she said it at the meeting, I thought of Yasser Arafat. And I was like, wow, okay. It's some liberation something group. Okay, so the Global Methodist Church is basically the traditionalists. Okay, this liberation one is for the LGBTQ community to move into their churches. And then the third option is that have a nice day, take your church and go off on your own. There's going to be no penalties or fees or anything like that, just everybody's breaking up. So last Tuesday, we had a meeting here. It was myself and the heads of the committee members. And we were discussing, what do we want to do? We have 1 year, pretty much. All this has to be done really by December 31st of 2023. They want to know your decision. I was already asked back in June of what our church was going to do. What were you leaning towards? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I asked the DS, I said, what's the information from the conference? I don't know. Well,
Did we all take a vote that we wanted to stay the same?
Stay the same, yes. That's what I was getting.
As we are.
Yes. That's where I'm, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're ahead of me now. No, so if you'll remember back to the meeting that we had, right? Apparently, I was the only person to do it, she said. Like other pastors got it ignored. She even said that she ignored it with her church. And with that, the questionnaire we filled out and what we see ourselves in the future, apparently us in Lakeville were the only ones that did it. Or Lake Ariel, I mean. She didn't even do it with her churches. And I went, oh, that's terrible. I said, because I know where my church is thinking. I know what they're doing. I know what, So this is what we're looking at. Okay? The idea was brought up, going back to what you said. If the church, everything is dissolving about going our own way. Not being part of a denomination at all. Being a totally independent, non-denominational church. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm not saying that, well, here at Lakeville, we're a mixed bag.
Yeah, that's true.
We are a mixed bag. It will not infringe on anything that you're thinking. But what it says is, and if you follow what they're saying right now with what they want to propose, is that we can walk away with our church. We're released from the trust clause. We're not penalized anything. And they say, good luck to you. Okay? Under the current way the rules are written, is that we would have to pay a year's worth of apportionments extra to leave the Methodist faith and then go through all the legal costs to pull the trust clause. Okay? If we wait, then when they vote on this, then we should be able to walk free and clear and start our own church. Okay? But yet we would be responsible for like any legal fees, title transfers, deeds, naming of the church, things like that, pastor insurance and all that other stuff. Here's the thing. The committee members already went ahead and we already jumped the gun on some of these things. Because I told you in the beginning, nobody is going to help us out except us. So we already we looked into insurance. We already went in and looked to the title, deeds, and transfers. We already went in and looked at what a lawyer is going to cost. We already went in and looked at what our finances are going to be. And everything is lining up. The only thing that we have to wait for is 1 year to pull the trigger and do what we're going to do. Tomorrow, I'm going to be sending out a letter to everybody. And I'm recording it today so that whoever is not here can also see it. I already notified that a couple people weren't going to be here. So I'll email the video to them. I'm going to be sending out a letter to explain a little bit deeper with some objectives of what we're hoping to accomplish here. To put your minds at rest, what does it mean if you go independent? Nothing's changing. I want to say that right now. A lot of times people think, well, if we go this way, does that mean the pastor goes crazy with their ideas? It's happened before. Pastors go and they feel that they oversee a church now, so now we're just going to rip all the windows out and everything. And I dropped it on Andy. I was that close to it. I was afraid he was going to have a heart attack. I said we were going to replace all the pews and put chairs in. I wanted to see what he was going to do, but I wanted to see what he was going to do, but then I looked at him during the meeting and he looked like he was tired, and I thought, I'm just going to put this guy into a cardiac, so this is going to be bad. But I owe him, so something big's coming.
Let's put recliners in.
But what's that?
Let's put recliners in.
Yeah, I like your idea.
Then you can have a longer sleep.
As long as I can have a recliner in the middle here, I'm sorry, you're going to go out to sit with Bob in your recliner, but as long as I do the sermon from a remote going, okay. As long as you guys don't mind that.
No recliner, everybody will be sleeping.
Yeah. But really, some things will change. I'm not going to tell you they're not. First off, our attitudes are going to change. The way we see things is going to change maybe a little bit. Coming to church should be an experience. Right now, I think we follow a matter of how we were raised, doctrine, what we've had pounded in our heads. I would ask that if we make this change, bring your own Bible. I said this before to you. You should bring your own Bibles to church. Some of you, I'm sure, have a lot of Bibles that are marked and highlighted and notes and everything. Bring them. I don't know if you noticed, but my sermons aren't just sermons. They're actually Bible studies. Huh?
Expositories.
Yeah. It's to help you understand how to take what's written and not pay attention so much to 1,000 years ago, but how to apply it religiously, following God, and philosophically to your lives. How does it matter to you? What is God saying to you? I want this to be an educational experience. The music is going to be more involved. Like we already have it with Sue, we have the choir, and we have Amy. So I'm sure we're going to be melding those together maybe just a little bit more. Right? So you might hear one weekend you might hear a lot of new contemporary songs, and then maybe the next week we go right back to the old traditionals because a lot of us still like those old traditionals. Right? Go ahead, Pat.
What is the global option? What does that mean?
Good question. So what I read about it is that, excuse me, the Global Methodist Church is all it's doing is taking the word united out. Because you're not united anymore. So now we're going to be global. The United Methodist Church is going to get smaller. So it's making up whatever churches are left in North America. And then it's joining together with the conservative African churches. Okay? It might include a couple of European churches, but basically it's a United Methodist Church but smaller. Their rules right now, they don't have a discipline, so they said they're going to rewrite the discipline. Okay, they right now in their belonging, their membership, they're saying that they're not going to hold. They don't want the trust clauses anymore. They're like, try us out if you like us, great. If you don't, you're free to leave. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because in order to take that discipline, like, think about this. If you want to have a organized denomination, are you just going to tell your churches you're free to leave whenever you want if you don't like us? Try it if you don't like it? I don't think that you're shooting yourselves in the foot a little bit, because they're going to have to put a lot of the same rules in the place that hold the United Methodist Church together right now. So if you're starting a new denomination, you really don't want to lose the one that you are, you know what I mean? You don't. So I could see it as a tantalizing way, but I could also see it as a way that's not going to last very long. Okay? But the Global Methodist Church is the traditional view. Okay? And there's no exceptions to the rule. They're not making any, it's one rule, one line. Don't ask us to split. If you don't like it, leave. Type. Go ahead. You don't have to raise your hand. You can ask as many as you want.
So do we have an idea as a group which way we want to go, or as our council has an idea, and our pastor?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
We have an idea where we want to go.
okay.
The actual vote and the commitment has to come from the church body itself. So in that letter that I was telling you about, on the bottom there's going to be a tab, and it's going to have options. And what it's, you know, I don't want to know who you are. We don't want to know who you are. Check the box and drop it in a basket. We're going to have a basket or something set up in the back. Just drop it in there. In 2 weeks' time, we want to do a tally to see exactly. I think 2 weeks for how big we are is enough time, you know, to especially by the time mail gets to people and all that stuff, of everybody to figure out majority wins. Majority wins. That's. I mean, we're not gonna. We decided we're not gonna split hairs over this. You know. But we also know that the way we're thinking doesn't mean that everybody is on the same page as us. So, knowing that, our thoughts are to go independent. I think we all concluded, and trust me when I tell you, it's not like we just got together for this special meeting and just arbitrarily talked about this. This talk has literally been going on since we sat in here 2 years ago with that meeting. We've been designing and I mean, we've been throwing scenarios at each other. What about this? What if this happens? Well, let's find an answer. Sometimes we have it in a week. Sometimes it might take us 6 months to get us an answer, to figure out exactly how we can do this. So there's nothing that we haven't come across yet with this.
So you've dissected it.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, I don't think, it's, what's that saying? It's like kicking a dead horse. This horse is just ransacked. I mean, I don't think we can do any more.
So we need to do a lot of praying.
A lot of praying. Being on your own opens up a lot of doors of opportunity that we don't have right now. I.e., fundraising. A lot of people have come to us with different ideas about, nope, can't open it up to this point, nope, can't do that. Why? It's considered a game of chance. It's considered a gamble. It's considered alcoholic. It's considered, there's so many, and it's like, I even asked the DS about that. This is one of the questions that I took from you guys from the last meeting. And I went to the DS and they said to me, well, why can't you have a dinner? I said, we're all out of dinners. I said, there's only so much spaghetti you could cook for people. I mean, really. You can only make spaghetti and meatballs so much. You know what I mean? Like, we need to expand. But one of the things that attracted people to a church is that you're open to opportunity. You're open to listen to suggestions. Not every time somebody comes in here and says, can we try this? No. Bye. It's not workable. It's not feasible. Right? So we have to close those gaps. We'll have more opportunity. Not saying that we're just going to go around the world with our hair on fire, and committing all these sinful things or whatever. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. But us as a team, I'll be with the internet there. Us as a team get to collectively put together what our mission should be, or is going to be. Decide what we want to do and what we don't, as long as it stays in balance with Christ being the center. Christ always has to be in the center. The church is not going to survive at all. What were you going to say?
That
Oh,
was
okay.
it. As long as we are Christ-centered,
Yes,
God-centered,
yes,
we will be good.
yes, yeah. There's a lot of things like we wanted to do with, one of the questions from back then was about advertising. What can we put out about our church? And I said pretty much nothing except if you want to put a sign out on the road. You can't really advertise your church. You can't do anything. You can't put it up on a billboard. You see all those churches on those LED billboards? You see different churches. You can't do that in a Methodist church. You can't do that because you have to go through their communications department, which then they have to decide whether it's equal for everybody. Equal for everybody. Okay? It doesn't work. So you're left to reduce to those little yard signs and your sign and maybe a poster or something like that. Okay? Another thing was insurance. Let me tell you about insurance a little bit. So we have this whole property minus the cemetery that's insured. So Chip was looking through to see about insurance carriers, how much they would appraise our property. Thankfully, the United Methodist Church, lining up for this, did an appraisal for our property already to see what the monetary value was going to be if we should just drop and run. And then they have buildings left, how much they would get for it. Thank you, right? So we took that, and Chip went to an insurance carrier and said, okay, this is what we have. Can we do an appraisal? Their response was, can you contact your insurance company and get us all the information? I called down to Philadelphia. I get a hold of the insurance company, and I said, hey, I'd like to have the certificate that shows that we're covered for one, and what the numbers are and all that stuff. And then I would like to know what you charge us for our property. And he goes, well, you can go to your finance office for that. And I said, my finance office has, I said, they told me they don't have anything like that. They only have the certificate. I got to go to you. And he goes, what are you looking for, like the conference one, or are you just looking? I said, my church, Lakeville, little thing. That's all I want. Oh, that's not a problem. He goes, oh, you pay $5,400 a year. Oh, okay. I said, that's, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, interesting about your conference is that all your churches pay $5,400 a year. And I went, what? And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, here's the amount. And he goes, and then you have like 1,000 some churches in your conference, so we divvy it all up and everybody pays the same amount. He goes, I said, so really? He goes, yeah. He goes, matter of fact, I can't believe he's telling me. I think this guy was all talkative, and I'm like, oh, this is great. He goes, I have a church, like your conference is a church right outside of Harrisburg. It's a big one, like 1,000 some members. They pay $5,400 a year. I said, that's kind of funny. I said, my church only has like maybe 60 on a good day, a holiday. I said, oh yeah, you pay as much money as you do as the big ones do. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. So Chip goes and he finds just get a quote of what it's looking, and we're saving what, $800 or something like that?
$800 just there.
Yeah. Just on our properties, we're saving on the insurance. The insurance rate dropped.
We won't pay apportionments anymore.
There's no more apportionments either.
$12,000 a year.
Yeah, so $12,000 a year we're saying on top of that, because every year it's coming up now, I have to do the conference reports, and then I have to do what's called the Ezra report. So the Ezra report is all your financials. They want to know how many people you have. They want to know what each individually gives, what your average contribution is, and then it has this formula, which I still don't know how they do it, tallies it all up, and now that I know the insurance is $5,400, I could probably figure out the rest of it. It comes out to a dollar amount that we're required to pay to the conference. Thing that we've always talked about is you want to help out the mother church, obviously, all right? Because they got missions. Everybody has missions. It gets to be a problem when you're contributing $12,000 a year to a mission, but yet all you can do is a spaghetti dinner. And you're limited. Like now, because you're limited because you have financial resource problems, right? So you can't do thank God we have the food pantry here right now. You can't do what you want to do. So not only does it free up $800 a year for insurance right now, but it also saves up another $12,000 on top of that through apportionments because we won't give them anymore. So that money stays here at the church. Financially also, we have a $10,000 CD that we have. That's an investment from a prior member, Mr. Stevens. That's gaining interest, that we get dividends every month, plus we just got the $50,000 on top of that from Miss Treat's estate. That's going to the church that we have invested as well. So you can see we have a cushion, okay, to get us started. God is providing. All we need to know is, what do you think? That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. My opinion as the pastor is that I believe that our church here has a lot more opportunity to do things that we're a little restricted on right now. Right?
We also don't get any support from the main church either.
And, yeah,
There's
and
no
we don't get,
pastors.
and we don't.
We've never gotten help,
No,
and we never will.
no. You guys are your own best help.
Yeah.
Because you guys do everything together. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, I've been at, what, 4 churches already. And I mean, this is the one that, this is why I selected Lakeville. I mean, I was asked back in February to go back to Asbury and Scranton if I want to. I said, no, ain't gonna happen. I like it where I'm at. Thank you. Have a nice life.
Thank you.
But it's like, but this is a testament to what I see here, what I believe in here, and how I know you. You know, and I to me as pastor, I see by shaking off the dust and going off on our own, we have more opportunity. The opportunities are endless out there.
Right.
True.
You know, because you want to. I see us as working for Christ and doing what we need to do. And I think also it loosens the shackles a little bit, if you will, to attract new people into our church, young people into our church, getting their opinion. Right now in our structure, I want to go back 2 years. We changed the structure of our church and how we did meetings. Right? When I first got here, we had everybody and their brother at a meeting. And then we had to change the structure to try to get a little bit more organization, because I'll tell you the truth, honest to God, I love you all, but you guys have my head spinning sometimes. I'm like, what do they want to do? I know that didn't make people happy, but it followed the book of discipline. By being our own, it brings back what we were doing. Now, the church will have an established what they call board of directors. I roll my eyes because there's different terms. Board of directors, board of elders, board of I think it's just going to be like a board of directors. Okay, that's going to guide this church. Albeit, when a body gets into that seat, they're not going to sit there forever. It's going to be the same rotation. We're going to have it every 3 years or so. We're still going to keep certain things because they work. And it gets fresh blood in there. But also, if there's a problem, like if you guys have a problem with me, you don't have to go to the SPRC. Then they have a meeting. Then Vicky has to go to the Ag Council meeting a month and a half later. And then she has to tell them what just happened. And so we're already like a month removed from whatever I was bothering somebody with me. By the time we get to discuss it, then Vicky gets there and goes, you know what, I don't remember what the heck this was about. You know what I mean? If something happens, it needs to get done. It happens in real time, immediately, right now. There is no waiting. There's no waiting for a meeting. We take care of it as a family. A family. A family. Where is it now? Nope, I took it out. I didn't have it there. I redid the bulletins. If you look in the Lakeville pamphlet, right? I gave all of you one of these that years ago, and we still have them around the church. Does everybody still have these?
Yeah.
So when I wrote this, I actually did this, me and Amy did this actually up in Chinchilla. Because when I got to Chilla, that poor church had no direction whatsoever. They had nothing. You know, and we had to put some sort of a formation together because the Methodist Church paradigm did not work with them. It really didn't. It didn't fit who they were. I think out of the whole Methodist, I think we had like 40-some people up there. There were only like 6 Methodists. So I had to create a paradigm that would work for everybody. When I came here and then I started talking to y'all here, I thought, you guys are this pamphlet through and through, and I wonder if you realize it. Because this whole pamphlet is written as a non-denominational independent church. There's no Methodism in it. It's plain simple. this pamphlet here, and then some added onto it, right, will be what creates our bylaws and our creed and our formation of faith, and it's gonna be everything that we could agree on. Right? Not gonna have anything pointing towards a denomination or a certain belief. I'm not gonna call out, we're not gonna call out, I should say, not me, we're not gonna call out one way of doing things or another. It's a basic belief that through a formation of faith, we all function together. Yeah, another question, Pat, go ahead.
Will we be looking for a new name?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I figured as much, like 99%. but-
I can tell you this, probably, I'm willing to bet, Lakeville's gonna be in it, right? So you guys just fill in the blank.
Community church.
That's what everybody keeps,
Lakeville Community Church. That sounds good.
Lakeville Red Roof Inn.
Lakeville Red Roof Inn. We'll always keep the light on for you. I wish we could patent that, right? That was a great idea putting the red roof on. See, it's like paying dividends. Go ahead, Ruth.
A couple of years ago, there was a question about the trustees, who the church belonged to.
Yes.
And they were looking, I think Andy and Vinny and whoever were looking into it.
Yeah.
And they said that the trustees was from the big Methodist church.
Yes.
So would that involve anything here?
Sure, yeah. So when it comes to, so we have a board of trustees here that takes care of our local property.
Right.
Then they report up to the mother church's board of trustees in Mechanicsburg. And that board is made up of various members from all around the conference. Okay? So when we separate, it'll involve our trustees working together with their trustees, and we have to have a lawyer, okay, for real estate representation, deed transfer, trust transfer, all that stuff, and making sure everything is done legally. So we will have our representation along with their representation, and that will all happen. It'll happen between the offices. So nobody's gonna probably have to go to Mechanicsburg, and nobody from. It'll just be done however the lawyers do it through secure net and paper
There
trails.
was a question a couple of years ago, who
Yeah.
the deed actually belongs to.
The deed actually belongs to the mother church. In 1968, when the Brethren Church of Christ and the Methodist Church joined together to form the United Methodist Church, the United Methodist Church took a page out of the Catholic Church and said, you know what, we're not going to let these churches go. They're all going to be held under a trust clause. And when everybody signed the affidavit in 1968 to say we will belong to the United Methodist Church, you just signed everything over to the mother church. So nobody could leave. Yeah. And if anybody's looking for a reference, the Book of Discipline's on the back there on the filing cabinet. Yes, Sue?
So, right now belongs to the council of the mother church.
Yeah.
When do we get it back?
As soon as soon as they vote at the general conference, okay? Once they vote to allow the churches to go off on their own, then that is where, first off, as a church body, we would have to send a letter from our committee to the DS and saying we intend on leaving, okay? Then from that, she would call a church meeting together. Now, it's very loosely worded on how this is gonna be. It's either gonna be her here physically looking at all of you and saying, all right, I wanna take a vote, and everybody raise their hand, and 2/3 majority wins, right? She would take those findings, she fills out a report, she goes back to the board of trustees with the bishop's office and files it, and then things start to roll right there, okay? When I mean about the church conference, it's weird because I know, Gene, you've been with me at the church charge conference, like we had to go to these churches. I wasn't sure I think it still needs to go through that as well to show, because they have to, the remaining members in the cluster have to vote on it as well or something like that, I think. But she doesn't have to have that formal meeting like that. She could just call the representatives together and they vote on it like that. And then after it's done there, it goes to the board of trustees. That's another step. Then it goes to annual conference the following year. Annual conference has to vote on it. Okay? Well, yeah, I know. But so far there hasn't been one that's been voted down. All right? We just had 2 of them get processed this past annual conference, and because the people they're so tired of it already. They're like, you want to go, go. you know, it's breaking apart anyway. Did I answer your question, Sue? You good?
When does that all start?
After next general conference, which is next year at this time. As soon as they vote on it and it's over and the conference has to adjourn, then it goes into play, right there. So as soon as it's done, then I'll know, and everybody else will know.
It'll take how long? Months, years?
Well, that's what he just said.
Once, let's see, if general conference happens in August, I'm speculating here, I'm just throwing it out there. General conference is in August, by the time we file all the paperwork, take the votes, get the ball rolling, annual conference would be the following May. So anytime, probably around, I would say Memorial Day of 2023. That's what I would say is my target date, preliminary.
What if it's, for two questions, what if it's on paper in August, and it's put in to go forth, is there apportionments paid from then on to next year still?
There's apportionments paid until you leave, yeah.
Until you leave, until they send you back?
You still have to, yeah, because you're still under the United Methodist Church.
Okay, and then if it is agreed upon that date, which is latter, the mother church is willing to walk away to leave the property to you.
Yes, because they're dissolving anyway.
Well, it doesn't mean they don't want.
But there's nothing they can do with it. There's absolutely nothing they can do with it. Yeah, they lost. They lost everything. You can't uphold, once you vote to dissolve, you can't uphold the trust clause anymore. It's gone, it's done. You're pretty much,
Away from your house.
yeah.
Just like walking.
They're gonna pass us the deed.
So once they vote to dissolve, then it's just basically
So it becomes
everybody.
property of the congregation, the family.
Say it one more time.
It'll become property of the
Yes.
congregation.
Yeah, yeah. So when the church changes names,
Right.
right, and then we have, excuse me, all the paperwork, the board of directors and all it together, then the church, when it gets insured and goes through the deed change and all that stuff, will be put in I think ownership would be by its people.
Right.
But there's some way that's worded somehow. I don't know how I don't know all that legal stuff. Yes, sir.
You said there are churches that are pulling out now.
They're paying the money.
How is that, what's the difference between pulling out now and waiting?
Okay, so what happened was when they had the special conference back in 2019, and the church actually wrote up an agreement to split, they rewrote paragraph 2553 in the discipline, and that has to do with the trust clause. And they added a paragraph in there. It says if any church wants out, they don't have to wait. You can go now, because there were a lot of churches that were already starting the process. They were already, like there's this one story of a pastor, I think it was down in North Carolina, I think it was, or South Carolina. But anyway, him and certain members knew that they were going to leave, and they went and built a small steel building, and they made a church out of it and gave it a different name, and I don't even know how they did it. It was remarkable how they did it. And then went back to the church and said, yeah, we're out of here. So they paid their apportionments and here they left the people sitting with no pastor or nothing at this other church at the building, and they went and they started a new church. I don't even know how they did it. It was like really weird. But anyway, 2553 allows you to leave the church right now. You have to have all the votes in place, like I said, nothing's really changing. Except that you have to pay 1 extra year's apportionments. So if we leave, if it says by Memorial Day of next year or the year after we leave, we'll still owe apportionments for 2024.
So it equals out the same as what you just told me. Whether we wait for them, or if we did it now, it's still 2 years you pay them.
No, because, okay, so there's this document that they have written up, because that's the thing. They just want this to go as smoothly as possible. Right now, if you're a United Methodist Church and you decide to leave, you not only have to pay current year's apportionments, but you have to pay the next year's apportionments. Plus any other financial debt that you might have. So like if you have a loan out or something like that, because you had a new roof put on or something like that, you have to pay all those debts off before they even let you leave. Okay? All right? If you wait until August, the clause that's going to be put in there is going to state that you can leave without paying anything. You're free to go. And you just have to go through your votes and all this other stuff. They want to follow that rule while it's still there, but you don't have to pay any of that extra money. You're done.
You still have to pay closing and the deed and all that.
Well, yeah.
And one
Yeah.
way or the other.
And you still have to pay 1 more year.
No,
No,
you're done.
I
no.
thought you told me.
No, I'm sorry if I confused you. I'm sorry. No, you're done. You're done. There is no extra year.
You did not tell me to 2023.
We're gonna, so what he's trying to understand is in September, August, when we state we're going to leave,
Mm-hmm.
we're still gonna pay apportionments until the deal is closed.
Mhm.
So you're still basically gonna.
Oh, yeah, you have to pay until the time you leave.
But that's still, so we're paying from now until
2023, yeah.
Right, because you can't do anything until they vote on it. If you wanna leave now, you can pay anyway, you can pay,
How many years?
if you wanna go through the process.
Well, we're paying.
But you're gonna be paying,
Just wait.
right, but if you, okay, so if you decide you wanna leave right now, and we do everything,
We'll pay.
you're gonna owe apportionments already for next year, cause that paperwork is going in.
Yep.
Right? You're gonna have to pay the extra year's apportionments for 2023,
Right?
right? So you're gonna pay $24,000.
Yep.
Right. If we wait until next year.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to pay partial apportionments for 2023.
Only partial, not full.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, partial. I'm sorry, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry if I confused you. You only have to pay partial, because once you're done, the deed's transferred, you owe nothing to them. And then you pick up and run.
We have to pay apportionments until we close on the deal.
Right, because you're still a member of the United Methodist Church, and that's what we agreed to. Either way, we're coming out ahead. We're coming out at
Yeah,
least
it's all about
12,000
the
ahead. Huh?
It's all about the cow.
So,
Yes.
if we're planning to leave, can't we start playing by our own rules anyway?
You've been. You've been, minus the fundraiser stuff.
Well, that's,
You guys pretty much
that's
have.
what, yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, but 3 years, I'm not, I don't like the rules. Never did.
Like the dog whisperer, you just go, shh, shh.
I don't know nothing. I said no. No, because
Start changing our own rules for our.
you could, sure, you could put little things in, sure.
Okay,
Sure, you can put little things in. I'm not saying everybody go, crazy,
all right.
because there's still phone calls to be made to somebody that doesn't like something we're doing,
Yeah.
Like remember that
Yeah.
that woman that came here, we had that woman, Miss Van Horn that came here and she didn't, huh? No, she came here, remember, she had that idea about the bingo and she didn't understand the rules, she's never been a Methodist before. She didn't understand what we were trying to tell her, and here, word got back to the DS and I got called at work saying, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And here it went ahead faster than what it should have.
Yeah.
Got back to the DS and I got yelled at. And I said, nobody's doing anything, it was an idea, we squashed it, we can't do it, like, but it took a little while because, DS gets pretty mad, they think you're gonna do something that's, so, yes, Bob?
Do we get to keep you if we want you?
Oh, I don't know, there's not, I told the board there's not enough zeros right now, so, I don't know, you guys gotta come up with more zeros.
I think that would be a big thing.
Don't worry, we know where he lives, we just go over there every Sunday.
Yes,
You'll see us on the front lawn with our chairs.
We don't
So-
like him, we like his wife.
Love me or hate me, you're stuck with me, yeah, because I said, yeah, I would stay, yeah, that's a no-brainer right there. The only problem we have, here's a problem, and this is a problem where the board talked about it, is that my shelf life is only good, right, so long, I'm gonna expire at some point, either I'm going home or retire. We don't have currently any pastoral person coming behind me. So that's another mission that kicks in with the church, is that, on top of getting more people, you have to be able to have an open mind. It was like about Ecclesiastes today, about opening more, trying different things, to love more, to this and that more, right? You have to get somebody in here to replace me, because if I walk out the door tomorrow, right, now you don't have a pastor.
Okay, I have a question, that's a great question.
A great question.
This is a great question.
Okay.
Because if we leave the Methodist realm and we are on our own, do we have to have a pastor?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah, you have to.
Why can't we have readers?
Well,
That's right.
yes, you gotta have a leader, and our leader is our.
But you're on your own.
Yeah.
You're on your own. You're not with the church anymore.
That's a cult.
Well, you can call it that, I guess.
That's a cult.
They're everywhere.
No, you have to have a pastor. You have to have there has to be a point person at the helm. There has to be. And that's just not for the local church so that you guys keep, stay biblically centered and all that stuff. but that's also required when you file your paperwork up at the state, which has to go through the Pennsylvania Department of State. You have to file your bylaws, your creed, your attendance, who your pastor's gonna be, who your board of directors. They need to know all that stuff in order to give you that happy stamp on there to say, yep, you can go be a church.
Right.
So you have to have all these things in place already.
So if Pastor Don decides to retire,
Uh,
what would stop our congregation from sending out a plea for a pastor to apply and interview?
It would be no problem, and that idea was already brought up by the board about going to, you have some seminaries, you might have some pastors that are out of, looking for a church or, whatever the situation may be. That's good. My advice to them as it is to you is you better scrutinize them really, really good.
Well, maybe our Pastor Don could be part of that scrutiny.
Well, what you say to me and what you do, I don't have to want to come back out of retirement through the back door and yell at the person and say you're an idiot. This is the way you should be doing it. No. It'd be better, or hopefully, if we can get somebody in line that hears that call. And that's another thing. If somebody hears that call, it doesn't matter the age. We have to really reinforce that, and build that, and feed it, and move it. And, we can't get, as a new church, you can't get stuck in your laurels. You gotta move. We gotta do things differently, think differently. It would be better if we had somebody in our church already that followed behind. That way there's a there's continuity flowing. They'll have their own way of doing things, but there'll be continuity as to the teaching, to making sure that everybody's getting fed, and it's consistent with the Bible. Go ahead, Sue.
Wouldn't that be Judy? What did she do? She did something, didn't she?
Yes, she was a pastor. Okay, so,
She has to
Well,
accept
the
it.
thing is,
She-
how much can she handle?
Right, but I'm just saying, like, it would be an option.
she would be. Now, all right, so, she's older than me.
She is?
She is?
Yeah, get out of here. I love you to death for saying that. Compliments to Judy for that. How old do you think I am?
75.
75.
Bingo.
Getting older by the minute.
Yeah, I know, really. I mean, Judy is older than me. Yeah, and so if anybody's gonna be retiring, it's gonna be her first.
Would it be better for this church to merge with some other small churches?
No.
That help
No, we tried that.
financially and.
So,
Nobody wants to deal with that.
That's the Methodist plan right
No.
now, they just like to shove churches together.
no, what, has it been considered? Yes. Not by our church, not our church merging. Like I got told by my DS, you're fine up there, I'm leaving you where you're at. There's other churches in our area, Methodist churches, that are looking to merge. At some point, they're gonna have to, because the people, it just doesn't support themselves. If that church wanted to follow and come along with us on our journey, sure, we can break bread and talk about that. That'd be an option, absolutely. But we have to be in agreement with one another. And the way I see it is that this body here would dictate what the next church is going to do.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Why?
If we're gonna truly merge, why?
Yeah.
Because we're leading this up right now so, I don't know how to say this.
They would be merging with us.
They would be merging, the merge would be coming this side of the house.
Ah,
Okay, not going the other way. So if we already have our doctrine already written and our bylaws already written, to have another pastor or group of people come in here and say, I don't like the way you're doing that. You shouldn't do it that way. You should do it this way. And when you look at scripturally of what we're going to be following, you look at it, you go, I don't see that in there. Where are you getting this from? Oh, this is the way we always done things.
Yeah.
No. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to say that it's not a possibility in the future because we don't know what the future of the other churches hold. Because I don't know where Hamlin's going. I don't know where Lake Ariel or Sterling or I don't know where they're going.
How many churches are in the conference?
Oh,
I
Jesus.
heard in the
No, not in the conference. No, in the conference there's over 1,000. So the conference is big. So the conference goes from right outside the Harrisburg area, okay, all the way up through us, up to Susquehanna County. It branches over in a little bit in New York. Then it comes right back down to Williamsport, and then right back down. So it's like this. It's like a comma shaped, if you were to look at it.
So how
It's
does
a big
the
district.
conference operate with so many churches? I mean, isn't it too complicated?
Yeah, but that's where they have a lot of upper management that it all filters down.
I mean, well, I would think they'd have different divisions.
Yes.
What these,
Yep. That's why there's 7 districts. There's 7 districts in in our conference. So, yeah.
Okay.
Would our service be basically the same?
Yeah.
Follow everything?
Yeah, yeah.
Except for all the Methodist systems.
Anything that has to do with a Methodist reference will come out like that. There's not much to that in what we have going on right now. But no, yes, everything. I'm setting a routine. Like I said, there might be certain services that we do, special occasions that we change the order, or I say, you know what, why don't we pop this out because maybe Amy and Sue are going to do extra songs or something like that for the month. That's the only thing that'll change. But the prayer confession and bang 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 communion, it all follows through. There's nothing. I don't intend to change. I like that setup I got from Reverend Davis, and he was my mentor, and I don't intend on changing it. That's who I am now. So I don't plan on changing anything unless But here's the thing. Sue will tell you, Amy will tell you, even if Andy was here. Music, I'm open to. I am very open to it. I don't care. They can change things at the last minute, and I move. We're flexible. So we might want to change some things up right 10 minutes before service. If anybody has an idea on a certain Sunday or a prayer service, Cynthia came up with a great idea. How about a healing service? Why don't we get those going again? A great idea. That's going forward. I think the next one's in October. That's the next 5th Sunday, so we're having another one. It's getting things rolling that I always say I can't think of everything by myself. I need people to tell me. So yes, so it's like an accordion. We're very flexible, but it'll stay the same. Yes, sir.
It seems like things are changing though, like in churches, where now it's like you can, like, we couldn't, you could not have a full-time position just pastoring this church. I mean, it seems like pastors are also having to have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And then plus their ministry. And on a personal level, how do you do, Don? Because I say to Rob, it's like, Don hardly ever gets a weekend off. Like, you get how many weekends off a year? Like, you work full-time during the week.
I know, I get yelled at by them.
Yeah,
When
how do you
Vicky comes out, she drops the hammer on me.
How do you manage that? Like, because you're working
Please, how do I answer this?
7
That's his-
I don't
that's his
overthink
pre-
it.
That's his preference, because
I-
we've asked, and that's really Don's preference. Because we've asked him, we've told him to take time off. We damn near kicked, pardon my French, out the door one day, take some time off.
But-
He has the availability to take his time off, and it's available to him at any time.
But however, I think too, when you start outreaching to more people and you bring in fresh blood and you get somebody motivated to become an assistant pastor or like a lay speaker, they just start speaking every once in a while and they become more involved and more involved. Like on Sunday or during the meeting, I shared that, I wasn't always called to do music. I started just singing at a pew, and then gradually I worked up to singing in front of you all and praising God and becoming a worship leader at certain churches. And I think that's what's going to naturally happen when we outreach to more people. You'll have somebody who's called, and maybe they become an assistant pastor, and then that will give Don the time to take a step back, and you have that additional person to help, become a family. You see that more in non-denominational churches versus Methodist churches. You have maybe the pastor and lay leaders, and the PPRC and all that. But if you look at more non-denominational churches, you have a pastor, an assistant pastor, and they help each other out. You know what I mean? Because if one falls ill, there's another to keep the message going and keep the community and the church going. Because it is, you know, we want to keep this place Christ-centered.
So Monday to Friday is just Monday to Friday to me. You know, I can go to work and then I walk out of there at 3:30 and I can dump the whole thing. It just doesn't, it's not that important. I mean, it's important because it's my job, but it's really not. I mean, it's my means to an end, but church is very easy for me. It really is. I was born and raised, I told you, in the Catholic faith. Oh my goodness, it's like, I mean, I could tell you what it was like following all those rules, growing up in a Catholic household. And I am thankful for that. I really am. I was an altar server when I was with the Catholic Church, so my family could tell you that I'd done more funerals than anybody. I mean, it was just the way it was. I was always called for that. I always wanted to do a wedding. I never did. But I served with 4 bishops, an auxiliary bishop, so I had a sound theological upbringing, I want to say that. And then I went and let my long hair down and chased girls for a while. Then I went in the military. So, and then went through a lot of ups and downs in my life, but God was always there. The worst case I ever had with not having God in my life was when I actually got told to leave the Catholic Church because I wouldn't get an annulment because I don't believe in them. And that destroyed me right there, and it was God that actually brought me back and said, I'm not, yeah, you remember 20 years ago when I called you? Well, guess what? I'm calling you again. And this is the perfect time to do it. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. I used to sit arguing with them. I used to write, you think lawnmower jokes are funny when I'm on my lawnmower and I put sermons together. That's where it all came from, was my lawnmower on a farmhouse. I used to sit there yelling at God. I called him all kinds of names. I was bad. And it was God that pulled me out of it. When I read the Word of God, I think it's so simple. I can't understand for the life of me how people can make it more complex than what it is. And how they can, Pat, how they can make it so I don't get it. I don't get it. To me, the story, putting together a sermon on a Sunday and doing a reading is so simple to me. I read it and I'm like, yep, I already know what's going to happen. I know because I know you. I already know what's happened. I know what's happened in people's lives. The emails go around. The Facebook quotes go around. People talking in church when you think I'm not listening, I'm hearing every word that people, almost every word. I hear it. I know what's touching. I know what days people are happy. I know when they're sad. I've had people come in the back door and even at other churches, and she'll even tell you, Chinchilla, I would have everything planned out, the music picked. Somebody would come in and tell me I had a tragedy in my life. Immediately, sermon had to change that fast. You have to be ready for it. You got to know what God's telling you to do. I sit up here sometimes. If anybody ever thinks I'm sleeping during the collection or whatever, and I'm sitting there, my eyes are closed, I'm not sleeping. I'm praying that I say the right thing at the right time and hit the person that it needs to hit the most. It might not hit all of you, but I'm hoping for somebody to come up, God to hit you, take a bat and smack you with it and say, there it is. Go with it. So to me, it's very easily done the way I do it.
And you do a wonderful job.
Oh, thanks. It's like a compliment. Where you at, Pat?
I was just thinking back to when Christ walked the earth, and he was giving us the message that we were to live by. How did that evolve into this organized religion thing? I mean, no, but
Okay.
my daughter
Very easy.
said to me the other day, Mom, people are getting away from this organized religion thing because that's not where it is for them.
Right, and I think, so I believe that, my belief is that by this church, and any church for that matter, going independent, I think is in its best interest because it takes you back to those basics.
Exactly.
Okay? Gets rid of all the rules and that. Okay. So basically the church started out like this. I've done it lots of times. I stood right here and I look up and Jesus goes to heaven and they're like, where'd he go? Oh, wait. And the angel comes and like the angel's looking at him like, what are you looking at? And he goes, well, we're waiting for him. He said he'd be right back. No, he's not coming back. Get busy. Get working. Get going. They fought and fought for about 30 years. 30 years! They couldn't get, because Peter thought one thing. Peter, remember, thought that the gospel should only be taken to the Jews. Paul comes along and says, you're nuts. He said to take it to all the world, baptizing everybody. Peter, what are you missing here? It was a lot of fighting. Not everybody agreed. They couldn't agree on the Jerusalem church. Even when they put James, the brother of Jesus, in charge, made him the first bishop of Jerusalem, they still didn't agree. They still couldn't agree with the message. Wait a minute, what did he say? What are you, you're nut? You should remember exactly what he said. And they couldn't agree on it. And this went on for years and years, and then thousands, hundreds of years, and thousands of years of people not agreeing. And still that way. So, if I had to split the church, say from Rick and Lynn back, right? They had their one group, they're their little group that maybe they go to the airport to eat, right? You 5 over here go to Lori's. You 5 up here, or you 6 go to the country cafe. And then the rest of you over here go to Burger King. And you all get in your groups and you say, you know what, I think Jesus meant this. No, I think he meant the That's what we're going to go by. Next thing you know, somebody writes a book. Now this group here grows into 100. Because now you tell your families. Same over here. Now you become the airportites. You become the Lorryites. You become the country cafeites, and you're the burgerites. Right? And that's how it started. It was because people couldn't agree. Constantine comes along, puts the Bible together, right? Declares himself seeing that cross in the sky, and says the Holy Roman Empire is now the Catholic Church. Great. Now we have one Bible that we put together. We have one church. Everybody's going to agree. Some bishops said, no, you're not. No, we can't do this. Well, if you can't believe, then you believe something else. They become Orthodox. They go off their way, Byzantine. See how it starts?
The ones that didn't kill.
The ones they didn't kill. Then all of a sudden, hundreds of years pass, thousands of years pass, then you get Martin Luther, pins the 95 points on the door, and here we are. And then even then when they break apart, you can't agree, because then you got your Lutherans, you got your Methodists, you got your this, you got your that. It's all about people agreeing on, but they forgot what the core was. They all forgot what Matthew 26 was all about. The last words. They all forgot it. You know? Now you got preachers out there saying the prosperity gospel. Make money, give money to make money. Like God's a banker. You know, things like that. It's just ridiculous. You know? That's how it started. So that's the long skinny of it. So, but it's caused utter destruction in the church. Because it's caused more people to not get along than get along.
And Christ is rolling over, because what was his message? Love each other, do good for each other, spread the word.
Right.
Love each other as I have loved you. That's the only thing he has.
That's all he says.
Yep.
Yes, Pam.
It was the Liberation Methodist Connection.
Liberation Methodist
That
Connection.
sounds really bad.
That's the other church.
That sounds-
Liberation. Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions? Rob?
I just have a comment, or kind of as an outsider, but I love it here.
Oh, thank you.
If you're building a business, there's 3 or 4 things you look at. And one of the first things everybody appropriately recognized, the key man. And when I put a business, we even get key man insurance in case anything would happen. But you got a real good key man here, okay?
Amen.
The next thing is the product. Your product is really good. The product that this is delivering. I think maybe one of your problems might be the consumer. And Sue and I have talked about this in a very positive way, but this is an older congregation.
Mhm.
And to get this to fly, you gotta start figuring out how to get youth and you know, when you start going to more funerals than you're going to see new faces in church, you got an issue, okay? And I think getting the Methodists off the name might actually help the consumers. I think the trend with the younger people is, I'm not a Presbyterian.
Plus the other churches that are just.
And the money will come if you have the consumers, so the money's not an issue, 12,800, whatever. But I think you got a great key man, you got a great product, now you gotta figure out, there's too many empty seats here. And I think it'll fly, I think it'll really fly. So you gotta look, and one last thing, it's called unintended consequences. I'm nervous about how easy they say this is gonna be.
Mhm.
You have the Liberation suddenly saying, I'll give you a typical example, Lehigh Valley. There's a church, Presbyterian, 1,500 members. The gay group decided, the minister said, I am not marrying non-male, female in this church. The minister said, we're gonna split. It went 1,500, about 300 said, I'm gonna join the Liberation, 1,200 left. They left. They literally went, I was involved in it, and they took over, they had the place for their church. The Catholic Church gave them the gym to use for their church. So there's 1,200 people out. The unintended consequence is the Liberation group suddenly said, how are we gonna fly this? We got this big hunkin' church, which they got from, they were given the church. They were given a huge, and say, how are you gonna pay for this? So next thing you know, there's lawsuits against this easy split, saying you gotta give us more money because you kicked us out. You're discriminating against us.
Right.
So it's just some stuff to think about.
So the United
More
Methodist,
customers.
the United Methodist, just a minute, the United Methodist Church already decided that. I think with the Global Methodist Church, they're giving 25 million to, and the Liberation Church, I want to say like 5. I think it was a total of $30 million, but 25 is going to the Global Methodist Church because that's where the main movement is still gonna. That's where it's pushing. That's the Methodist Church right there, the new one. So they got the bigger the funds, and then they compensated the other churches to get going on their own for the new one. So they're still tied somehow.
And
I
the
don't know
rest
how
of
that's
us
gonna
get
pan out.
buckus.
What's that?
And the rest of us get buckus.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, if you join, you know, you get.
don't wanna join the other church.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You'll be part of that. Now, here's the other thing too, is, like if say somewhere we decide to join the Global Methodist Church, they can't promise you a pastor either.
Right.
You're in the same position. And I say that because they're not even sure what pastors they're gonna have, or what bishops they're gonna have, what DS, they don't even know what it's gonna, nobody even knows what it's gonna look like. They don't even know what buildings they're gonna have. They don't know what churches are all gonna be part of this. This is a big conundrum. But it doesn't have to be a conundrum for us. I'm all about us only. I don't really care what the rest of it is.
That's right.
Another caveat to this is, if we decide to do this, okay, you have Holly, Hemlock Grove, Hamlin, Lake Ariel, Sterling, Moscow, Maple Lake, Daleville. That's 8 churches I just named right there. And Poppack, I'm sorry, thank you, Poppack. And Beach Lake, 10. There's 10 churches right there that have people in them. We don't know where the pastors are going. We don't know where the people are going. You get your nets out. I'm telling you. You want to worry about people coming to the church? It's not on me. You want to worry about a pastor replacing me? It's not on me. It's on us. It's on all of us. We all have to throw those nets. Jesus says, throw the net over the boat and pick up the fish. You got to be available to these people. You have to. You have to talk about our church. You have to talk about what we believe and not be ashamed of it. You got to. This is the way it is. Some of them will come. Some of them won't.
Things are changing. Come join our boat.
Yeah. So I mean, it's something that you got to think about. You got to be fishermen and fisherwomen. So go ahead, Ed. Sorry.
If you listen to the sermon, you're pretty smart. It leads me to ask the question, when you take a vote, are you voting as a congregation member or as a Methodist?
You're voting as a congregation member because as far as I'm concerned, you're all members. You're all members. If they wanted to go by the actual listing, correct me if I'm wrong, they're probably going to get 12 people that are Methodists.
There are times when people stack votes. All of a sudden, people come walking in here you never saw before because you're having a vote.
Oh my.
Never happened.
Not here.
Go ahead. Thank you. Nobody's going to stack the vote. Nobody's going to stack the vote. Matter of fact, I'll keep you all honest with the vote. I'm going to put the basket right up in front of the altar. And if you're lying, well, it's on you. No, I don't want the votes mailed back. I mean, if somebody has a better way of doing this vote thing, let me know. I mean, should we raise, I mean, if somebody wants to raise hands in 2 weeks or whatever, if you go home and pray about it and think about it. I mean, however, if you know, I'm also thinking about the people who aren't here right now, of making this the easiest way possible so we get a say in everything.
I like the basket thing on the altar, I think that's cool.
Okay.
Put it in there.
Yeah, because if you come out with one more than what we're anticipating, you know it got stacked.
We know how many we said.
Yeah, we already know the number. We just did the membership list, so we already know. So, anybody other questions or any thoughts before we go? I'm sorry it took so long, that went longer than what I thought. I anticipated I had like 15
We got 2
minutes.
sermons in one day.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's great.
But, no, I thank everybody. This is very important, because a year is gonna be here before you know it, and change is gonna happen that fast. It's gonna be that fast. And the fact, you know, I'm thankful to the committee members, we're already ahead of it. We're already getting ready for it. We just need to implement it when it does happen. I think everybody will.
Thanks to you and the committee, we have a lot more information than we had before.
And there's gonna be more coming. There's gonna be more coming, because I'm sure Rob said it best, you know, that they're gonna be twisting some things. It's too good to be true, and I even believe that. It's too good to be true right now with a lot of stuff. So I'm waiting to see how they tweak things when they realize that when they do damage control, how bad this actually is, and then they go, oops, and the cat's already out of the bag. But I'd like to be a flea or a tick on that cat when it's running out of that bag,
And that's where good water comes in.
and we're already lining up now.
Sorry.
It's okay. I didn't hear you. All right, we're good. Bye. All right, thank you.